Good morning and welcome into another week of JumpStart Worship. Now, you may be asking yourself, Pastor Stephen, why do you have all of this junk on the table in front of you? Well, I'm glad you asked because today we're going to be talking in Luke chapter 15 about 3 different stories that Jesus tells about people who were searching for something that was missing. So I thought before we got started today, we would test your skills and see if you can figure out what is missing. So check out this picture really quick. Now, do you remember all the items that were in that picture? Because I have another picture, but I've removed 3 items. I removed 3 items from the picture, and I'm going to show it to you again in just a second, and I want you to see if you can figure out what 3 items are missing from this picture. Did you figure it out? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Stick around and I'll tell you the answer when we come back after worship.
You are everything to me. You are all I ever need. Because you love me completely. You give every heartbeat, and I can't imagine my life without you. Who lights up the morning and shines like the sun? Who put the stars in the sky and named everyone? Who is always with me, no matter where I run? It's all you, it's all you, it's all you. You are the reason that I sing. You are more than everything. Because you love me completely. You give every heartbeat, and I can't imagine my life without you. Who lights up the morning and shines like the sun? Who put the stars in the sky and named everyone? Who is always with me, no matter where I run? It's all you, it's all you, it's all you. You're always there for me. You're with me constantly, every night and day. And I know I can trust in your unfailing love. That's why I can say, who lights up the morning and shines like the sun? Who put the stars in the sky and named everyone? Who is always with me, no matter where I run? It's all you, it's all you, it's all you, it's all you. Who lights up the morning and shines like the sun? Who put the stars in the sky and named everyone? Who is always with me, no matter where I run? It's all you, it's all you, it's all you.
Are you ready to find out if you were right about the 3 things that were missing from our pictures? If you guessed truck or post office truck or mail delivery truck, if you guessed truck, magnifying glass, and deck of playing cards, then you are exactly right. These are the 3 items that I took out of the picture. Now, I want you to be honest. How many of you guessed those 3 items correctly? If you did, go ahead and raise your hand so I can see it. Yeah, okay, it looks like a few of you did guess correctly as what was missing from our picture. Well, today we're going to look in Luke chapter 15 where Jesus tells 3 stories about people who are missing something and the lengths that they went to find what they were missing. See, and Jesus tells these 3 parables because, again, he wanted his disciples to learn something. He wanted them to learn a lesson that's important for us to know today. Jesus wanted them to know that that his mission was to seek and to save those who were lost. See, Jesus wasn't just another guy. Jesus wasn't just a person who was there doing some really cool things. Jesus came for a purpose. He came so that you and I, so that the people then, they could have a relationship with God, that they could know God. The Bible tells us that we all sin and we all mess up and we're separated from God, but that Jesus came to find us who are lost and to bring us back into a relationship with God. And Jesus uses these three stories to show his disciples that and to show us this truth today. The first story that we find in Luke chapter 15 is a parable of the lost sheep. Jesus tells a story about a man who had 100 sheep. That's a lot of sheep. And he's bringing them back into the pen one night, and he goes through and he counts all the way down, and he gets to 99, and he has lost one of his sheep. But Jesus tells his disciples in this parable, he says, instead of the man staying and being content with 99 sheep, he leaves them behind, he leaves them in the pen, and he goes back and he searches for the one that was lost. When the man finds him, he brings him back and he invites all of his friends and he throws a party and he celebrates because the one lost sheep was found. The second story that Jesus tells in Luke chapter 15 is a woman who has 10 coins. And the Bible tells us that she has these 10 coins and that she loses one of them. And the same thing happens again as the man with the sheep. The woman, when she realizes that she's lost her coin, she turns her house upside down looking for this last coin. It's probably how some of you have acted before if you've lost your favorite toy in your room or you've lost something that you really value. You take everything apart. You're looking everywhere for it. The Bible tells us that when the lady finds the coin, that she again celebrates. That she goes and she tells the other people and she calls people in and says, this coin that I had lost, it is found. I have found what I was looking for. Now, the final story that Jesus tells is probably the most well-known story. It's the story of the prodigal son or the story of the lost son. Jesus tells a story where there is a man who has two sons, and the man is very wealthy. And he tells his two sons, he says, when I'm gone, the money that I've made, the wealth that I have, all of my land, all of my things, will be divided between the two of you. Well, the man's younger son in this moment, he says, Dad, actually, instead of waiting, I would rather just take all my money now and go. Well, the father loved his sons very much, and so he said, okay, fine, you can do that. And he gives the younger son the part of his inheritance or what the son was owed, and the son leaves and goes out to live in the city. In the story that Jesus tells, the son quickly begins to spend his money and very quickly finds himself at a place where he has lost all of his money. It's gone, and he has made none back, and so he now has nothing. The Bible tells us that he has nothing to such an extent that he's keeping pigs for a man, and when he sees the food that the pigs are eating, he thinks to himself, pig food may not be such a bad meal, and he begins to eat the food that the pigs are eating. The Bible tells us in this moment that the son, he realizes the mistake that he's made, and he determines in his heart that he is going to go back to his father's house and beg for forgiveness and beg for his father to accept him as one of his workers, not even as his own son again, but simply to let him work for his father. The Bible tells us in Luke chapter 15 that Jesus is telling this story, and the young son begins to head home. The Bible tells us that when he is still a far distance off, the father who is sitting and waiting and watching for his son, he sees him. And he jumps up and he runs to his son. And he grabs him and he embraces him in a hug, and he immediately calls for the fanciest clothes, for the nicest shoes that he can find, and he immediately tells everyone that they are going to have a feast to celebrate the return of the lost son. See, Jesus told these three stories for a very specific reason. He wanted us to know and understand his purpose on earth. Jesus, in this story, what he wanted his disciples to see is that these things that are lost, the coin, the sheep, and this son, that's who we are. We are the people who are lost and on our own. But Jesus came with a great message. Jesus came with a purpose to seek and to save the lost. And just like the father, and just like the lady who had lost her coin, and just like the man who had lost his sheep, Jesus wants us to know that He is looking desperately for us, that He is searching for us and wants us to be found. For each and every one of us, like I said at the beginning, we have to understand and realize that the Bible tells us that we all sin and we've all been separated from God, but that Jesus came to seek and save the lost, and that we are the ones who are lost, and He has made a way for us to be saved. That when we believe in who Jesus is, and when we admit that we're sinners and we confess who He is, that we can be saved and have a relationship with God. That when Jesus told these three parables and gave this example of how these people searched and searched and searched for what they had lost, He was really telling His disciples, I am here to seek and to save those who are lost.